presented by Lady Arcaders, and happy affiliate anniversary to our channel! Wow. We're a community of video game loving women and otherwise femme-aligned people coming to you twice a week with events showcasing everything from speedruns to game development to a lot of lore dumps lately, and I'm so here for it. In that vein, BunniestBunRena has brought us back to the Blackboard of Doom for tonight's episode. She'll be educating myself and Mina on DoDonPachi, as well as its creator, Caveco Limited, with Bees Not the Bees %. I'm excited, having no idea what the topic I just said is for once. So, let's pass it over to Rena.
Are we live?
We're live.
Oh, okay. Oh, alright, sorry, I was taking a nap. I had something to do beforehand. So, welcome, I made it! Oh, blessed be. I just got off of, like, a long talk, so... I should be ready. We should be good. Today we're talking about DoDonPachi. It's gonna be I think it's gonna be a bit of a shorter one, thankfully, for all of our sanities. If that's something that we do wish to keep intact. Otherwise, well, I mean, I guess you came to the right place. This is certainly a game series with one of the plots of all time. Though I do think it does have something interesting to say. So, hopefully you'll come and join along with us as we take a trip through a lot of things, really. How are my students doing? Well, how are my students doing? Introduce themselves.
Oh, Lord have mercy. I'm Mina. I have I would say like a 4 out of 10 understanding of the overall plot of DoDonPachi as a franchise. I'm more of a Mushihime-sama girl myself. Also a big fan of Batsugun, which is the final Toplan game, which was made by a lot of the people who went on to form Cave, which is the company that made DonPachi and DoDonPachi. So, not as familiar as I would like with this particular franchise, but very familiar with their work as a whole. Also play King Sweet Tsubara, it's very good.
And I forgot to mention that I'm Valeria, and I still have no idea what anything you just said is, so...
Ooh.
That's how we want it.
Perfect. Excellent. I guess that is the place we get to start our story. Contain your excitement, Mina. But our story does start with a Batsugun. This is very exciting news, I know. With a small company called Toplan. Which I've never known if I pronounced that correctly, because I don't play any of their games.
Yeah, it's Toplan.
Toplan! Ah, blessed be.
When in doubt, pronounce it like it's Japanese.
Toplan! So, Batsugun, I believe, was in fact the last Toplan game. They made a lot of shmups. A lot of them. Some you might even be familiar with. I don't remember which ones they are, but thankfully that's not what we're talking about today, so I don't need to be an expert on that. Oh, blessed. But, we do have to start with at least one of them. Batsugun, very fun game for what I've heard. But...
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's on Steam for $8 or more bucks if you want to get the port with more bells and whistles. It is... Sorry, I don't mean to derail, but it is like the prototypical bullet hell shmup. It is arguably the very first game of that type. It is very, 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 very worth playing just to see like where that part of the genre started. Very worth $8. I'm sorry, I don't mean to derail. Go ahead, Rena.
No, you're fine. You're saying all the things that I wanted to say, which means it's less work for me. Keep doing that. So...
See, this is why we get along well on these, because like we
exactly
compliment off each other. Yeah, this is perfect.
So, this game ended up being super cool, and I really do want to play it. But, well, I don't want to say even cooler, because Batsugun is pretty cool. But, what ended up happening is a handful of developers from Toaplan who ended up breaking off just as the company was sort of dissolving. You don't remember their names. They started a small little company on their own because they still wanted to make some cool shmups called Cave Co. Limited, which is going to be the going to be the subject of our talk today. Now, Cave is a very interesting company. Let's see if I can draw their logo all right. I'm not the best artist, but we'll see how this works.
Actually, so far, like, you're kind of nailing it.
Yay! Yeah. Yep, this is the one, and then it curves around here.
All right, yeah. We're getting the pixels. Can we get the forced 3D perspective?
Oh, that's gonna be the killer, but I will see if I can do it.
Also, shout-outs to best viewers on Twitch TV right here on Lady Arcaders. We don't need your help, spam bot. Go away.
Yeah, we're doing this. It's too late for me now. I already said I would. Oh. Look at this. We're killing it. I think. Oh. May I never speak again?
No, actually, you're kind of killing it right now. This actually is very good for MS Paint with what I assume is a mouse.
Yeah, I am kind of just going at it with the mouse and accepting my fate.
No, unironically, like, that's actually really good. That's really close.
Cave Co. Limited.
Not even being facetious right now.
So, Cave, interesting company, and we get to start out with the first game as they are just getting started. As it feels a lot like a Toaplan game, and that game is DoDonPachi, which is why I had to put this Do in parentheses because it's sort of a Megami Tensei kind of deal, where the Shin got added a little bit later, and even though it's prevalent, it's still important. Oh no, where'd my music playlist go? What is that about? Get back here.
Yeah, well, while you troubleshoot that, fun fact, DoDonPachi is both the onomatopoeia in Japanese. I think that's the right word. Like, the word for, like, a word that is also, like, roughly a sound. That is the sound for both drumming on, like, a big traditional taiko type drum and gunfire, which will make a lot of sense if you ever play DoDonPachi the franchise, because there's a lot of bullets in that game.
Isn't that also the name of, like, a Bobobo character?
Probably. There's also a...
I wouldn't be surprised.
There's a roller coaster at one of the many theme parks in Japan called DoDonPa, and that one is named after the sound of drumming.
I'm so sad that was down when I went. I'm so sad.
Truly unfortunate. But I mean, on the other hand, like, if you've ridden like one Top Hat launch coaster, you've ridden most of them.
That's true. Wait, we can't talk about coasters. I'll get sidetracked. I'll get sidetracked.
No. Oh my god.
The coasters come at a later time, but DoDonPachi is the first sort of experiment that Cave goes on to do, as they sort of feel out what they want to do with shmups, because they still want to make shmups, but they're still all Toaplan developers, so they're sort of still in that mindset.
Yeah, they're kind of finding their own identity at this point.
So we gotta start out with the actual lore, because I did promise I would talk about that, unfortunately. So, essentially, we start out in, like, the not-so-far future, etc., you know. A future far enough that we will have cool spaceships to dodge in, essentially. The world is sort of preparing itself for war, essentially. And so, a elite group of warriors is starting to be formed, called the DoDonPachi Squadron. And this first game essentially follows us, our nameless pilot, on their way to essentially training to become a part of the DoDonPachi squadron. Now, throughout the game, of course, it is a shmup, so you get to spend your training, essentially, shooting, of course, other tanks and other ships, and yada yada yada. Throughout the 5 stages, you take out 5 major bosses. They're very interesting. They didn't quite know what they were doing with the bosses yet, so there's some weird ones. The 5th one's just like a wall. It's a very interesting set of bosses. None of which I think I'm going to draw. We'll get to drawing one of them because it becomes important later. But the point of this is that as you you shoot things and all that fun stuff, and you get to the end. I don't remember this is like revealed directly in game because I can't read Japanese, but essentially, the twist is that the people you are fighting are not actually enemies. They are other parts of the DoDonPachi squadron. And you fighting through them is essentially your entry saying that you are better than all of the rest of the entrants. And this sort of strange, I guess, I can't say certain words, right? I can't, self-game ending, strategy, if I may, is headed by the leader of the future soon-to-be DoDonPachi squadron. His name is, Colonel Long Hina, which is a very funny name. But he's a very terrible man. It is a very funny name. I never get tired of it. I think we have to draw Long Hina legally. He's got big flowing locks of hair. He's a very funny man.
Yeah, much like every fictional military franchise, the less real-world military the person looks, the higher their rank is. So naturally, this man has like glorious flowing locks. I think he may have facial hair in at least one appearance. Like very much like the sort of thing you would not see in the U.S. Armed Forces for whatever stupid reasons.
I think we're back. I think we're chilling.
You all good?
Yeah, it looks like we're back. Yeah, hey guys, welcome one and all. This is DoDonPachi, Unhinged Rant.
Welcome.
I'm Mina. I'm not your host. Rena is.
Yeah.
We're talking about everyone's favorite time traveling, time looping, self-defeating, bizarre bullet hell nonsense. Rena, what are we drawing?
Oh, look at this Long Hina. He's got the silly pads and everything.
Oh, look at those shoulder boards though. They're fuzzy.
They are. I don't know why they're that fuzzy.
I don't think they're actually that fuzzy.
I know they got a little something to them, but I don't remember.
I think they're like tassels. Like he's definitely got that. He's definitely got some drip. He's got the Millie drip going.
He's got the Millie drip. I'm giving him a nose. This is an act of rebellion.
Oh my god.
So, Long Hina. This strange plot of his is to make the best DoDonPachi squadron he can manage. So, during the second loop of the game, it takes place, I believe, 7 years in the future from the first run-through of the game. It takes place 7 years later, and Long Hina, now you are just a part of the DoDonPachi squadron. And Long Hina is here to personally test your mettle with his own squadron, because he's a little weird. So he decides to throw even more of the DoDonPachi squadron at you in, strangely enough, the same ships. Oh, ooh, wow. That music's getting crunchy and I don't know why. Ooh. But, through that, we get introduced to a very important concept, and that is that Long Hina has A bit has an ultimate doomsday machine at all points in time, or at least usually.
Not again.
I'm sorry, it's true. And part of his test, the very end of his test, is essentially, he says, alright, you're like some of the best we have, so I need to make sure that you can do whatever it takes to win. So he pulls out his ultimate I believe it's called the ultimate doomsday device. if that's any indication as to how serious we're getting. But its name is Taisabachi, and this won't be the first time we see it. And if you couldn't tell by the fact this game's very, very B-themed, yes, the ultimate doomsday device is in fact a bee. It's just a bee. it's a mechanical bee.
The ultimate form.
The ultimate life form. The bee.
We love Tachi.
Now, let's see if I can draw Taisabachi. Because it's a little different than the Hibachi, which we're going to hear about later. It's got the... Wow. Yeah, look at those bee eyes.
Oh, we love to see it.
And it's got the... Wow, mandibles. They go all the way up to here for some reason.
Yeah. Also, for the everyone who's not me that doesn't speak Japanese in any amount, these bosses are bee-related puns.
Always.
So it's not just they decided that bees and wasps were funny iconography. Like, they actually do, like, kind of go all in on that theming for the big bads, or the true big bads, as it were, in shmup terminology.
Womp. And womp. Oh, these wings are unironically cool, though. I live for these, like, the energy wings that the true last bosses always get. I don't know why it's always energy wings every single time, but I do live
Energy
for
wings are some of the coolest aesthetic.
They are very, 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 very good TLB designs as far as shmups go.
We're gonna... Long he gets to sit in front of his favorite death machine. How exciting. Cool.
And I mean, like, as someone who is allergic to bee and wasp stings, they kind of nailed it on this one.
They kinda did. Oh, I can't draw. There we go. And now we got, oh, this got limbs, right? Look at. But Taisabachi is the ultimate doomsday device that long he's just been keeping for some reason. I don't know why he has it or why he built it, but he did build. What? I think this is the general shape of these things. Then we gotta do it again.
Yeah, he's got the big bee drill stinger arms. Yeah, that's close enough.
Yeah, it's one of these.
Like this guy comes in to steal your girl. What you do?
Well, I mean, how good are you dodging bullets?
He can have my wife at that point.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, honey.
There we go. I don't know why he's got these big protrusion. And now the final touch. Whee! The wings are complete.
Yeah, that's literally his in-game sprite. Great.
That's him. That's him. So, of course, we end up defeating Taisabachi. Hopefully. Well, it really depends on how... Yeah, the toss-up. It's a really annoying fight. I'm gonna be real. I don't like it.
Even by TLB standards, it's a very annoying fight.
Yeah, I mean, DoDonPachi is an old game, so I will let it slide. But
yeah, this was like the 90s. Like, we were still figuring out how video games worked back then. But like, it is a trend that continues on. If you play jumping ahead a little bit, DoDonPachi Daifukatsu arrange mode, you can get to Hibachi And it is impossible to kill Hibachi if you have restarted the game at any point. Like, he just, like, will not drop hit points, and you have to game over. Like, he's just invincible. It's silly. I digress. Sorry, I'm not trying to sidetrack. It's just very funny. This is a very funny franchise.
It really is. I love it so much. But we obviously in the good timeline we defeat Taisabachi and take down Longhina Asterisk because, you know, then he's like, bravo! You did it! You took down my giant war machine.
We did it, Reddit!
Little self-congratulation. Good job!
Yeah, pat yourself on the back, like, you know, crack a bottle, let your body waddle. We win.
Yeah, we all win, because we're literally all part of the same team. Now are you ready to fight real wars with real people? And that's the entire plot of the original DonPachi. It's just an extended training sequence, which, to be fair, is kind of the stake caves in. This was kind of the training sequence game.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you think about, like, the history of Cave and where they were at the time, you know, like, again, like, they had just, like, come out of the collapse of Toplan. They had just released what was the, like, prototype bullet hell shooter. Like, they were trying to, like, flesh that formula out, find their own identity, move forward. So, like, DoDonPachi was very much an experimental title. It did a lot of things really well. It also has aged like fine milk. It's worth playing. Like, just to, like, if you're a shmup fan, it's definitely worth checking out. But it has not aged particularly well. Nowhere near as well as its sequels.
Which is, I think, is unfortunate. It's still a fun game, but you can feel the growing pains. It's a little rough around the edges.
Definitely worth playing through, but, like, I don't think it's a game that I would want to get hyper obsessed with, like the later entries in the franchise.
This is the worst Toaplan logo ever, I think. But that's okay. They're dead, so they can't tell me otherwise.
Rest in peace, Toaplan. You would have loved Mushihime-sama Futari.
True.
And Muchi Muchi Pork, and Ibarra Pink Sweets, and Pro Gear, and
they would have loved Pro Gear.
Every other game that the people who used to work for you went on to make, including the DoDonPachi franchise.
Honestly, yeah. Especially DonPachi, because DonPachi is basically an honorary Toaplan game in my opinion. We do get introduced to the combo system, which is going to be very uniquely DoDonPachi, but for the most part, it's a Toaplan game.
We love the combo counter in this episode.
Delicious combo counter. It'll get better with time. Right now, it's a little janky. It only like half works, but like it works. And you collect hidden bees, so like yeah, we're getting there. The hidden bees will come back later. Trust me, they'll come back later. But for now, Cave, coming off of this success, gets to now look around because now they're like a real company that puts out real games. They get to coalesce. We made a game and it made money. Huzzah! What's everyone else doing? We were busy making a game for a little bit, and they look over and they see Battle Garega. Battle Garega is a big game.
Let's go! Shoutouts 8ing, shoutouts Rising. Let's go! Great game. It is not. We talked about this a little bit when we were getting set up, and I think Rena will agree with my assessment. Battle Garega is a game that came out multiple decades too early to be truly appreciated. It is the shmup equivalent of La Mulana. It was made for people who have an esoteric knowledge of the genre that simply did not exist when the game came out. And in a lot of ways, DoDonPachi has that in common with Battle Garega, but that's a different Unhinged Rant. Battle Garega is a wild.
Battle Garega is a whole subject on its own. But the short and skinny of it is that this developer, going by Raising, decided to put out like one of the best shmups of all time, just like drop it casually, way before anyone was ready for it, and it also ended up doing pretty well even for the time. So good job. but Balgarega is kind of a formidable opponent now. The rank freaks over there. The rank freaks making Battlegorega.
One of the handful of shmups where you have to intentionally kill yourself to drop rank, unless you want the game to become impossible and kill you anyway.
Yeah.
It's very, 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 very hyper optimized if you want to actually win credit clear.
Oh yeah.
But again, that's getting off in the weeds. That's a totally different topic. Sorry. Go ahead, Rena.
Yes. No, it's fine. I need to talk about Balgarega anyways. So, Balgarega is off being like one of the best shmups of all time. And Cave gets to sit over here like, oh no. Well, that's kind of an issue. We also need to make one of the best shmups of all time now. So, I believe we have a few very old interviews with some Cave developers, who directly say that the intention behind their next game, DoDonPachi, is explicitly to beat Battlegorega.
That is something that I recall reading, yes.
Their goal with DoDonPachi was they wanted more bullets, more action, more score, more fun. We need to beat Battlegorega or we're going to die. Which...
Well, at least more fun is pretty doable because Battlegorega
yeah,
is...
that's true.
It is,
It's special.
Yeah, I wouldn't describe it as fun so much as I will not let this game get the better of me.
Battlegorega is...
Again, it's a very good game, but it is a game that was made for a type of person that simply did not exist in 1996 yet.
But through that motivation, we get DoDonPachi, who is pretty much explicitly here to one-up Battlegorega. And I mean, they're both classic games, so I can't really say anything, but I think they did a pretty good job, because DoDonPachi is also one of the best shmups of all time. So they kind of ended up pulling it off somehow, which is a little wild. But
I mean, I would also argue that the original DoDonPachi and Diojo, as well as the next game, still a little ahead of their time for how tight and technical they are, but absolute masterworks of the genre for sure.
Absolutely. To get on the lore immediately, we start some unknown time after DonPachi. The DonPachi squadron is fully formed. It's well versed. We're all good. We have it now. And good thing too, because we get a signal from space. Oh no.
Not like this.
I know, right? We get a signal from space. Aliens are attacking! We gotta defend Earth from the aliens, of course. So, Longhina, still heading the charge, is like, alright, well, we kind of been sitting on the DonPachi squadron for like a long time, and they're kind of the best warriors that we have ever had, ever. So, like, let's just, like, send one of our guys. So, Longhina sends one of their guys. You are an unnamed cool pilot, who might be the same pilot from DonPachi, but, I mean, I feel like he'd be starting to get a little up there in age.
I mean...
Strangely enough,
it's a video game, it doesn't... Like, you played Metal Gear Solid 4, an old guy can beat the crap out of someone who's fresh out of basic, why not?
Yeah!
Like, you're just a ship A, like, the pilot doesn't matter.
Yeah! We should draw one, I feel like we should draw one of the ships now, because now we're right in mainline.
Let's go, here we go.
I only know it as Delta Sword, but we need Type A in our sights. Let's get let me see if I can remember what Type A remembers. Because I don't actually play Type A, usually.
Oh, what, beer is
Womp. Womp. I'm a B player, because I'm the worst.
I mean, At least you didn't say C, because wasn't it C that like it took people like literal decades to find an actual like chain route for stage 1 that didn't involve breaking at some point?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know. It's funny, like DonPachi, and well, I guess we're talking about DoDonPachi at this point, but like it's very funny, like how like iconic those ships designs are for how like generic, like typical sci-fi shit they are at the same time.
Yeah.
Like that kind of like is a testament to the staying power of the original. Well, it's not the original entry of the franchise, but it's kind of considered to be like the definitive beginning of the franchise, just because it was so much more successful than DonPachi was. But that's getting a little ahead of ourselves at this point, so yeah.
And we got these things.
That is a pretty decent rendition of the ship, I think.
Because I remember the Delta Sword. I actually really like Delta Sword in the original DoDonPachi and DonPachi. I love the way the shot type looks. It looks so nice.
It's just hard for me to tell because, like, I don't see the ship anymore. I just see the giant laser.
Oh yes, you're not wrong.
I mean, that's coming from a background of playing mostly Daifukatsu Black Label, which is quite a bit of ways in the future. We'll get to that eventually.
And then one of these. I want to say they got these. Yeah, they got like these things on the back for some reason. The bits
Yes,
are
a couple more shots.
Oh.
No, like I would say that's a pretty reasonable rendition.
Yeah,
of
look
the
at those
ship,
bits! Look at those bits!
Yeah, that's good enough for government work.
So, we take our ship, and it's time to shoot some aliens! Woo! Don't we?
First stage team is iconic.
It starts out as a very generic plot. It starts out very generic. However,
You are a good guy, shoot bad guy.
exactly. However, of course, when things come around the second loop, things get interesting again.
Wait, what's this about loops?
Well, interesting. But this, oh, you're right. I should probably talk about. Loops are like a genre convention by now. Essentially, once you get done with the main game, the game has you essentially play through the same set of stages again with harder enemies. Usually, there is an additional boss at the end, etc., etc. That kind of thing. So when we talk about, next loop, that's what's going on. Forgive me.
Yeah, because I know Batsugun, well, not Batsugun, but Batsugun Special, the arrange mode that didn't get a super wide release until the Saturn version, they added on loops at the end. But correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't DoDonPachi take that a step further and actually bring that into the storyline?
It will soon. It will soon, actually. For now, actually, I believe we do get a little bit in the plot. Here's how the second loop is canonized in the original DoDonPachi. It is revealed that this may sound familiar, but you'll never believe who is behind the alien quote-unquote attack. That's right, it's Longhina again! He is
my god! Who could have ever seen this coming? I've never seen Terminator.
He's been leading the 7 Corps Squadron against the DonPachi Squadron in an attempt to start an all-out war of humanity with itself to bring an end to humankind as we know it. Why? No one truly understands.
Yeah, we actually still don't know. That's not been covered in the franchise yet. It's kind of happening.
Yeah, Longhina just has like a chip on his shoulder or something. Someone gave him power and like he had a Joker moment. I don't know, but
it's probably typical sci-fi reasons, but unfortunately we have not gotten a sequel to Saidai Ojo yet, so we don't actually know for sure. We probably never will know.
yeah.
But yeah, at this point, we're just kind of like getting into the beginning of an eternal war.
It's
Time and space.
It begins.
It's not quite as interesting as the one from Doctor Who.
So the second loop of this game is fighting essentially directly with Longhina's squadron again, and this time he's got a new ultimate doomsday device. He scrapped the old one. The old one's too big. It's too clunky. It didn't work. So he's got to get a new one. And let me tell you about the new one. We're going to be hearing about it a lot. His name's Hibachi. And it's...
Oh, let's go! It's my boy.
And Hibachi is, if you will believe it, an even smaller bee. It's a smaller bee. We actually downsized from Taisabachi. But that doesn't make it any less intimidating, nor not infinitely worse, because the fight is infinitely harder. Taisabachi over here is annoying. Hibachi is actually just impossible. But
yeah, no, Hibachi like single-handedly takes up most of the top spots on hardest TLBs of all time for shmups.
And Hibachi
kind of an unfair list.
Actually just looks like a bee. There's like a little robot, but he kind of actually just looks like a bee, which is very interesting. They just gave a bee a gun. And it actually worked out really well. Got
like,
that.
This guy shows up to steal your girl, what you do? Well, you're wrong, because he's gonna murk you.
Oh, look at that funky dude.
Like, the unfortunate thing about Hibachi is, like, unlike Taisabachi, like, Hibachi looks like the kind of guy that you could just, like, get a beer with and hang out and talk about, like, the Alan Parsons Project. And that's not at all what he is.
He's just a bee. They just put a bee in the game.
He looks like a bee, but in his heart, he is a giant mechanical murder hornet.
Yeah.
He is not your friend. He does not pollinate. Well, I mean, I guess he does pollinate, but he uses your blood.
Oh. And
He hates you. He hates everything you know. He hates everything you love. He really just hates everything. Like, he is angry.
I gave him a Glock for good measure.
Understandable.
Who gave this bee a Glock?
That's the last thing he needs. He has enough firepower, but sure, give him a Glock. Like, strap him up. I don't care.
And he actually shoots out these special bullets that are going to be reoccurring throughout the game. These strange little stinger bullets whose hitbox I still cannot decipher.
This is not a bit, by the way. Hibachi does have his own special BS bullets, and they are nonsense, and I've not yet met anyone who appreciates them.
They're very silly.
Maybe Electric Underground, but like he's kind of a one-off case, so he doesn't really count for the purpose of this conversation. Shout out to Electric Underground.
Shout out to Electric Underground. Love that guy.
Show.
Absolutely. But Hibachi, the ultimate killing weapon, actually very good at his job. Taisabachi was like an alright doomsday device, but I think Hibachi could actually probably take out humanity, give like, I don't know, like 7 minutes.
They give him enough opportunities, and we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
And he might be able to pull it off.
Longhina was cooking this time.
He was cooking this time.
Unfortunately, for the rest of humanity, he was popping off. So, of course, we gotta take down Hibachi. And through expending all your resources and pretending you can dodge it, you can! Thanks.
Well, surely that's the end of this, all right? Oh no.
So, to get on to the actual game, DoDonPachi's great. DoDonPachi's really interesting because it's one of those games that's like still played to this day. It's a really popular game even these days, despite being as old as it is. It's a true classic, which most of the DoDonPachi games end up being. Ooh, like that.
Yeah, like I said, it came out well before its time. Like, people are still finding like new optimizations. There's still a lot of ground left unturned. Whether we'll find all of it or not at this point, because it's pretty well optimized now.
Indeed.
That's a different story. It's one of those games that's just like very much aged like fine wine. Definitely worth checking out. Definitely worth downloading a main ROM dump of it and checking it out. But it is quite difficult.
It is. Especially with the scoring system, which is the combo system again. And this time it actually works. It's not like finicky. It just works. The combo system essentially is every time you beat up an enemy, you get one combo. And that applies pretty much... This is super simplifying. It applies a global multiplier to all your score. And there's a little timer that goes down. And if you don't kill another enemy in time, the multiplier drops to 0. But if you kill another enemy in time, it adds another 1 to your combo meter, and you keep going throughout the entire stage. Presumably, if you're a gamer. And your goal is essentially to keep that multiplier up and keep it going higher. Number get bigger, of course. A classic motivation.
Ah, yes. Finally. Yeah, if you were here for Rail's showcase last week when we looked at Crimson Clover, you would think that Crimson Clover with as many moving parts would actually be much harder than DoDonPachi or DoDonPachi. But no, actually it turns out having less moving parts, but they're much more tightly packed in together, makes it quite challenging to keep your chain up.
Yeah, it is rough. DoDonPachi is does not save you. It will not save you in your time of need. There will be no lenience. You will suffer. That's it.
Like we talked about earlier, like it was very recently that someone finally found a route for one of the ships to chain through stage 1. It's really, 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 really tight.
It is rough. I mean, it makes sense. DoDonPachi, like all of the games, is a game you are meant to play pretty much over and over. The main tagline of the game is "Dying is good." Coming to it way something that I guess Dark Souls would rip off however many years later.
I don't know. Yeah, no, that's kind of the Dwarf Fortress mentality. Like, fun! Like, everything is fun! Like, losing is fun.
Losing is fun. Dying is good.
Yeah, like, where your credit count is a badge of honor.
Interestingly enough, this game has still been relevant very recently, actually. As there's been a bit of a weird thing going on with DoDonPachi scoring. I believe this is concluded semi-recently, but for a hot minute, there was an interesting thing going on between the American community and the Japanese community surrounding specifically DoDonPachi. There is a strange scoring glitch on stage 5, which, as far as we know, the Japanese audience has known about for essentially as long as the game has existed. Probably due to just having their hands more on the game. But none of the top players have actually said anything about it. They refuse to tell anyone. So for a very long time, it was pretty much impossible to get like a top world best high score on DoDonPachi. Until very recently, a player by the name, I believe his name is Blackisto. He's from Sweden, I believe. So, global effort. Found the glitch after rigorous testing and years and years of a bounty being over it. It was kind of a big moment because for a long time, DoDonPachi was kind of dying on the west side. But now we're so back. We're so back. And that's like an entire That's like an entire story for another day. That whole fiasco. Because it was a fiasco. It was a very strange moment in shmup history. But, yeah, it goes to show this silly little game has had so much strange impact on the entire community for so long. And it's still being played to this day, so... 07 of that. Absolutely wild game.
Yeah, I mean, like, for, like, very, like, top-level context to the influence this game has over shmups in general, the, like, most popular guide for learning how to, like, put your brain in the shmup mentality is named after an in-joke from one of the releases of DoDonPachi.
The full extent of the jam.
The fullest extent of the jam, exactly. Like, this game has, like, unbelievable amounts of influence over the genre for a game that is really not super widely known outside of the, fandom of the genre, which is really unfortunate because, like, again, fantastic franchise.
Honestly.
Like, Daifukatsu is on Steam. It's worth picking up. It's hard, but it's so good.
Oh, and it's a great place to start, honestly. I really appreciate Daifukatsu.
Yeah. No, like, and again, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but Daikatsu, or Resurrection, if you don't speak Japanese, it's actually probably the easiest game in terms of, like, scoring and mechanics. Aside from, like, the raw actual bullet dodging, because that's gotten infinitely harder, but, like, the actual, like, subsystems of the game are a lot easier to wrap your head around, which makes it kind of like the best entry point. But at the same time, it's like one of those things where it's like, it was the fourth or fifth game in the franchise, depending on, like, how you're counting. So, like, you couldn't have arrived at that point without taking the lessons that you learned from earlier titles and applying them to what you did later on. Like, you're never going to make your best work the first time around, especially in games. You have to make mistakes to know how not to make mistakes in the future. And sometimes that works, and you get DoDonPachi Daifukatsu. And sometimes you learn nothing, and you get the Matrix Path of Neo.
Now, we must unfortunately sidetrack a little bit to a game that does not matter, because it's technically a DoDonPachi game.
You better not say what I think you're gonna say.
Yeah, I am gonna have to say it. I'm sorry.
We're talking about B-Storm, aren't we?
Yeah, I gotta talk about DoDonPachi too. B-Storm.
B-Storm doesn't count.
B-Storm really doesn't. It was not made by Cave. Something's weird up with DoDonPachi 2 B-Storm.
Yeah, like, just to, like, put your expectations in gear before we get there. Not a bad game, but it is very much a Doki Doki Panic versus Lost Level situation where it is not the game that it claims to be.
Yeah, it's a little strange. I mean, if it's any indication as to how different things are, for some reason, all of the ships are like people. Like they're dudes.
We love people, though. This is a people channel. Shoutouts to people.
I know, but, like, why do the ships turn into dudes?
People ships are definitely not going to come up ever again in the DoDonPachi franchise. What are you talking about?
Of course not. This is a one-off thing, and
never again.
But
they learned their lesson.
Yeah. It's a very strange game. I do love the artwork, though. The artwork is like a work of, like, brilliance and a work of comedy. It's great. But we don't actually have any information on the story of the game. Really? The best we got is, like, I don't know. They're attacking again. Yeah, that's about it. That's the best I got. Otherwise, it uses the same ships-ish. Not really. The designs are different, but they shoot the same way. They look very, very strange. Let me draw like a type B from B-Storm. It looks so weird.
It's literally just like a giant like Times New Roman cap. No, it's not.
Let me see. Let me draw this problem child. Whoop. It's got like one of these.
So yeah, while Reina's doing arts and crafts,
Oh lord.
Dale, where's your head at right now?
I'm concerned about this sequel. I just kind of want to try out the cool B game at this point.
I would also
Yeah.
be concerned about this sequel.
Yeah, because like you're the host, like you should probably like be offering input, and I realize like this is very much a conversation that Reina and I are just like overwhelming because this is something that's very near and dear to both of us. But
Isn't it a strange ship?
This boss looks like a cross between an F-Zero ship and a Blaster Master enemy, and I don't know how I feel about it.
It's not even a boss. This is a playable ship.
Like they were cooking with this one, but I do not know what they were cooking with.
Huh? What happened here? It doesn't even have thrusters. How is it flying?
You know,
Is
this
it flapping really hard?
I guess so.
I mean, I see the tires. Like this is a top fuel dragster. It just hit 600 miles an hour on the tarmac. It took off, and now it just maintains 600 miles an hour because inertia doesn't exist. Physics police gonna arrest you for breaking laws? I don't know.
But
DoDonPachi 2 is a game.
yeah, it sure is. It's like, I don't know who made this one. I don't even know the developers. I don't think they did anything else after this, really.
I can look it up real quick. I've got 500 monitors on my PC. Hang on.
It's a strange one, though.
Hang on, I'll look it up. Keep talking. I'll interrupt you when I find it.
Yeah, and the plot is, I guess, basically just like, Kaisabachi is back. Beat him up.
Okay, I found it. Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. That was the entirety of the plot of the game.
That is basically. DoDonPachi 2, B-Storm, Japanese, DoDonPachi Su, Japanese, I'm sorry, Chinese, don't speak Chinese, can't read that. B-Storm is a vertically scrolling bullet hell shoot 'em up developed by International Games System and published by Capcom in 2001. And see, that one's weird because the original DoDonPachi was published by Caps, who at this point was still kind of a B tier publisher. Like they had released several games in the Mega 10 franchise at this point, but Atlas was nowhere near the juggernaut that they were today. They were not yet owned by Sega. They were very much doing their own thing. I don't remember who distributed the original DonPachi. I can look that up real quick too. DonPachi was also published by Cave. Okay, cool. But yeah, DoDonPachi 2 being published by Capcom is kind of a weird asterisk on Cave's history because the only other game that Capcom published was Pro Gear.
Wow.
Which also has the mantle of being one of the few horizontal shmups that Cave released because they're mainly known for vertical shmups. But that's getting off in the weeds and a totally different topic. Pro Gear is good, you should play it. I digress.
Don't get me started on the horizontal ones. I'll start talking about Death Smiles and I'll never stop.
We're talking about like all the weird shmups like Akai Katana and like Pro Gear. Like Cave has released a lot of very, very interesting games that are outside the scope of this conversation. But yes, the original point of this tangent is DoDonPachi 2, published by Capcom. Very unusual.
Very, very strange. But
And all the DoDonPachi 2 version of Hibashi is also wild.
It's wild. It's a strange one. Everything is strange in that game, but I kind of respect it for that.
Yeah, like it's a solid 7 out of 10 game. I'm looking at the reviews now. Famitsu gave it a 29 out of 40. If you're familiar with the Famitsu rating scale, 29 out of 40 is basically a game of the year contender because Famitsu is so infamously stringent with their requirements. Let's see. Sega Saturn Magazine gave it a 5 out of 10, which is kind of a pan. Like, only Famitsu gave it like a respectable score of the Japanese magazines. Which, again, wild, because Famitsu is like infamous for how stupid they are with how like high their standards tend to be.
I would say this one is still worth playing, though. Interestingly enough, just to see it, it's like a weird alternate universe for the entirety of DoDonPachi. We'll get there, but it's a strange one. I don't even know how canon it is because our next game doesn't even mention it. So
I mean, it's DoDonPachi. Like, talking about canon and DoDonPachi is borderline meaningless because, like, we just keep. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
This is the one weird outlier. This is the one weird one where I don't know what it's doing, but I do appreciate it still. So
it was cooking something.
But Cave was at this point still celebrating DoDonPachi doing pretty good, all things considered.
Yeah, no, it did gangbusters.
It did good.
It was one of the better PCBs of that year. Like, it was installed everywhere.
So
like it made its way west. Like, that just
Oh!
didn't happen with games that weren't fighting games back then.
It was pretty big, and so of course we gotta follow that up somehow. But the problem is that they did accidentally make one of the best shmups of all time, so it's kind of hard to follow that one off. Yeah. So and along with that, they have to start new projects too. They start some of their other franchises as well, because they can't just make DoDonPachi. I mean, they can, but that would be boring, right?
So we're certainly, this means we're going to talk about Danganronpa, like the absolute like goat of the shmup genre.
Oh, I love
where you do disco
Danganronpa.
dancing and have really wild weapons and save disco dancers.
And the best ending in all shmups.
Makes total sense in the genre, right?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we can't get sidetracked. Otherwise, we might go over the hours. It's strange, because if I just talk about DoDonPachi, we're probably going to be under 3 hours. But if we don't just talk about DoDonPachi, we're going over 5 hours.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing, like, tracing the history of DoDonPachi, is the history of DoDonPachi is very intimately tied to the history of Cave, and you kind of can't have one without the other, so it's very easy to get off in the weeds.
Oh, I do love the weeds sometimes, though. And
Oh, I love the weeds, too. That's why we're friends.
exactly. And I do love Danganronpa. That's one of the games I've forever wanted to play forever. It's so good.
It's so good, yeah. But I digress. Where are we going now, Rena?
Yes. So, in the middle of all these other projects, being a game development company and whatnot, like, we gotta make, like, a new DoDonPachi. We gotta make it, like, better than the first one. But the first one was, like, one of the best games of all time. So, a big order.
Second one, so surely that means we're gonna make DoDonPachi 3, right?
Kind of. This next one, by the way, you're gonna hear this a few times now, but this next one is essentially what is meant to be the conclusion of DoDonPachi. And they work on it for like less than 2 years. They crunched the development of this game hard. They were working on a lot of other projects, and this one did not get enough attention. So, of course, a bit of a strained development time, lots of other projects, small company. This is, of course, a recipe for the actual, probably, best shmup of all time, DoDonPachi Blissful Death, which consistently ranks as literally the #1 shmup of all time. I literally don't know how they did it.
Yeah, no, like, Daiojo, as it's known in the native Japanese, is very widely considered to be the best bullet hell that has ever been released. Better than anything Toho. Somehow better than my personal top of that genre, which is also a cave game, Mushihime-sama Futari Black Label,
Oh,
which is also very good.
it's really good.
Like, this is a game that, like Rena mentioned, like, they had 500 other plates that they were spinning at the time, and somehow in the middle of all this, they released Diojo, and it is one of the most beloved bullet hell shmups that has ever been released. It's better than the original DoDonPachi. It's just as tight, just as technical. I will let you get into the specifics of the story and the mechanics and whatnot, but they were cooking.
They were cooking. It's ludicrous. It's actually.
If this is one of the few games where if you are a fan of the genre, if you have the financial means to pick up a copy of the game, it is 100% worth picking up a physical copy of. Like, just to have it on your shelf as a collector's item. You can emulate it. It's old enough that I wouldn't feel any guilt about emulating it. But if you can have a physical copy just to have a piece of video game history, it is worth tracking down. It is so passwords good.
Yeah, I don't personally see it as the best one ever, but I have to respect it as the best one ever because I think that's just objectively true, maybe.
Yeah, even if it's not like your best one ever, like if you don't put it in your top 10, like just out of respect for how important the game it is, like I have to question your taste and judgment. Like I hate the game. To be clear, like it's too tight, it's too technical, it's too difficult. It has too much in common with Ketsui, which I also don't care for Ketsui, which is another cave game that Rena also has a soft spot for. But I respect it, and because I respect it, it gets a place in my top 10 list.
Ketsui is the game I make fun of people for playing.
I will not be caught dead playing it, like, more than often enough to remember that, like, it's a game that I don't care for. Like I respect it, but that doesn't mean I have to enjoy playing it. It's not like Battle Garega, where I play Battle Garega out of like a sense of I'm not letting this game get the better of me. Like, this is very much a sense of this game has gotten the better of me, and I'm not going to subject myself to harm anymore.
Yeah, this game's hard.
It's so far beyond what I consider to be an enjoyable game for my personal sensibilities, but it is an immensely important game. And it's very good, and I need to track down a physical copy just to have it.
Yeah, me too, honestly. Oh, look at this.
I will start keeping an eye on eBay, and I will let you know if I find any that are not ridiculously expensive.
This shoot is kind of going in. I did not think I'd be able to do this.
Yeah, it feels like you're getting a little ahead of yourself with this one, but I'm not gonna cross that bridge yet. We haven't quite hit that particular time loop yet.
Actually, we have. We're here for Shooty. Yeah, Shooty's here.
Is Shooty's here?
Shooty's here. Yeah.
Shooty's here. Is I here yet?
Lenyon is, and so is EXY.
Oh, we're getting into the waifus.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yup.
Because, you know, at this point, you know, we're starting to get into the 2000s. Every franchise, you gotta have your waifus in your arcade game. You gotta have your waifus in your... If you don't have your waifus, your game is doomed. Like, even Metal Gear has waifus. Like, if Otacon is not your waifu, what are you doing?
True.
You're like, why are you playing Metal Gear if you're not trying to wife up with Otacon? I digress. Rena, go.
So, DoDonPachi, Diojo, Blissful Death. So we start another undetermined amount of time after the original DoDonPachi, or I guess after B-Storm, depending on how canon you want to make it.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about it yet, but we are starting to get into the time travel nonsense.
We might be. We might be
in a never-ending war because
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah.
So
It's not really spoilers, but it's also spoilers. But time travel's weird, y'all.
so we start sometime after the original DoDonPachi, where Longhina and his whole deal have been thrown off to the moon because they said you tried to kill everyone on Earth, so I mean you're not allowed here. We could just send you to the moon, and so they just sent him to the moon.
You think he met Mega Man there?
Maybe.
You think maybe in like one of those timelines we got Legends 3?
Oh, I wish.
I'm sorry, that too soon.
So
that's a different Unhinged Rant. All right, sorry.
So Longhina and all of his squadron are off on the moon. They're chilling, Max and relaxing, all cool. And the DonPachi squadron gets to stay at home and sort of lick their wounds, prepare themselves, get themselves ready for whatever comes next. And whatever comes next is the moon comes next. Longhina comes back after a long slumber on the moon, and it's like, well, I still want to kill all of humanity. It still sounds pretty fun. So, all of the forces, all the mechanical forces, start reawakening under Longhina's command. And now, it's up to the DonPachi squadron to deal with it. This time, however, they have a little help. They have the help of a new commander. We're gonna talk about him later. But, and some new technology, because it's been a little bit since DoDonPachi.
No way. It's not, is it?
This new technology is a form of, essentially, this aged quite poorly, but AI assistance.
Oh, snap.
I'm so sorry. But we have, these things, which we're gonna call them Element Daughters. And the Element Daughters are a series of artificial intelligences that have been uploaded into the ship, to be chosen, of course. You can choose between them. And they are here to essentially assist the fighters in their war against Longhina, since, it's just a couple of dudes going up against an entire army again. And they figured, like, I mean, we could probably handle it, but we're not Longhina, so we're not gonna, like, send you in as, like, one guy with no assistance. We're not that...
The waifus would probably help a little bit.
They'll help. Surely. Please let them help.
Because, again, mind you, this is the mid-aughts in Japan. Like, you gotta have the waifus. Like, that's just how these things went back then.
Absolutely.
Love it or hate it, that's just the way the culture was.
And they do tie into the gameplay.
Yeah, 100%. Like it was really interesting stuff that they did with it. It was a really interesting game.
So, the Element Daughters are Shooty, they are Lenyon, and EXY. And Shooty is essentially the spread shot. You choose Shooty, you get the cool spread shot. You choose Lenyon. Lenyon is the focus laser high power shot. You choose her, you get the bigger laser. You choose EXY, and you get both of them, but you barely get any bombs, is the deal. So, you sort of sap your resources for the sake of very nice firepower. Of course, this is kind of a lie, because, like, EXY is, like, objectively the best one. Like, it's not even a competition.
Yeah, 100%. And, like, I hate to jump ahead a little bit, but really, like, kind of offensive to me that XE wasn't really broken in the Extra label version of Side-Iojo. But, again, we'll get to that! We'll get to that.
We'll get there. So, it's up to our fabled warrior again. It might be the same guy again, who knows. But it's up to our fabled warrior to take on the moon.
His opponent, as WWE would put it.
We're on to take on Long Hina again, of course. So, essentially, we go up to the moon, and we start a big old war there. Fantastic.
Not again.
Yeah, we start another war with humanity again. Long Hina loves this stuff. It's very strange. But, we get to start a war, machine on machine, baby. And with that, of course, you go through the forces, you get to the end of the game, and Long Hina's like, excellent job, you made it through all the machines. Now why don't you take on with my real squadron? And then you go through the game again, and then you go through Long Hina's real squadron, and he brought Hibachi back! He's been bringing Hibachi back, he rebuilt him!
Not again.
They had the technology. He could rebuild him. So
that's the $6 billion beat.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all took care. I'm sure there's nothing strange happening anymore, so what you got for us, Rena?
yeah, it looks like we solved all the issues.
We have solved every problem.
Yes.
Like, the galaxy is at peace, the last Metroid is in captivity.
Yeah.
Like, nothing bad could possibly happen at this point.
Of course.
Like, it's a utopia. Like, God's in heaven, all's right with the world.
Yeah. Anyways, where were we? We were fighting Hibachi again, right?
Yeah. Oh no! I thought everything was fine.
Don't worry, everything is fine immediately after this, because we do beat Hibachi.
Fine, asterisk, footnote, Wikipedia entry.
Oh no, we're talking about the ships. That's right.
And the Wikipedia comment.
Yeah, we were talking about the Element Daughters. Yeah, that's right. So they were a thing.
We were talking about Shooty when you turned into Shooty while you were talking about.
That's true.
Very funny.
Yeah. So the different shot types, they are basically, well, the shot types are interesting. You could choose between ship A or ship B, which have their usual dichotomy of B being more spread focused and A being more focused. But you can also make them individually more spread or more laser or more ballin', depending on.
That's something that DoDonPachi has always been pretty good about as a franchise. Like, it gives you a lot of creativity to fly the ship that you want to fly. And the community, in turn, does a pretty good job of separating the ship that you fly into different leaderboards. Like, going back to the original DoDonPachi.
So good.
There is a separate leaderboard for Type A, Type B, Type C. Because all of those ships require totally different strategies, totally different routes, totally different approaches to playing the game. Doesn't seem like it when you're learning the game at first, because you would think, I'm blowing up the other ship. That's good enough. No, that is not how the routing works.
Never good enough.
They all require totally different approaches for scoring. Again, getting off in the weeds, this is a very high level. So, yeah. I also can't help but notice that, we're an hour 20 over estimate, and I don't know how that happened.
We'll be
There
fine.
must be some time travel shenanigans happening
It'll be
here, right?
fine.
Surely there's time travel or something going on in this franchise.
I wouldn't worry about it. Interestingly enough, we don't get a sea ship. I don't know why. This is the one game without a sea ship. Even DoDonPachi 2 B-Storm has. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why there's no sea ship. Even DoDonPachi 2 has sea ship. But I guess it wasn't in the budget. Which, I mean, I guess fair enough. I guess they only had like 18 months to work on the game or something. I don't know. I guess we can live without a sea ship, but
Yeah, I mean, and they cooked for those 18 months. But
yeah. So I mean,
there is no sea ship.
I
you
Why would
can't
there be a
deny it.
spaceship? I thought we were in space.
Don't worry about it.
You know what?
Like, getting ahead of us.
That's perfect alley-oop. I can't even be mad. But
I can be mad. It's not my showcase. What the hell? Like, you can't just say that. You can't just, like Diojo, like
glorious Diojo. But yeah, don't worry. It has a happy ending. Long Hina is defeated again, for reals this time. Surely he will never be able to come back ever again. Just like Cave will never make another DoDonPachi, because this is the end of the series. Isn't that right?
I mean, surely they won't, like, turn around and make a Black Label game that is, like, the definitive version of the gameplay of that particular entry, right? Of course not. They're gonna make White Label.
Well, you see, DoDonPachi, Dioju ended up being a little too hard. It's interesting. This game ended up being way too hard. They overtuned this one crazy. Its difficulty has become iconic for all the right reasons and the wrong reasons. The right reasons being there are some very interesting patterns that have gone on to be very iconic. We all live for the washing machine, which is Hibachi's last spell.
Love the washing machine.
We love the washing machine! It's a very iconic and very hard to dodge Hibachi attack, and it is forever enshrined in the canals of history as being what it is, being barely dodgeable. Absolute nightmare attack. Who let him cook? But also, this game got a bad reputation for being too big and too hard, because when you... Well, we've been talking about loops every now and then. On second loop here, it's very interesting because it starts you off with 0 lives and 0 continues.
Oh no! No, in a cave game, that's basically a death sentence.
It's actually really rough. Starting out from that is actually really bad, and the patterns are all like so nasty in second loop. It's really bad. I believe there's only one recorded full 1 credit clear. One! Which is quite...
I actually can't, like, deny that, but that does not surprise me because Diojo is very widely considered to be the hardest shmup of all time.
Yes.
Compared to Metal Gorega, which, as we talked about earlier, is widely considered to be stupidly difficult for no reason.
Yes. At least last time I checked, there was only one recorded full 1 credit clear, the original release of DoDonPachi Blissful Death, which is absolutely wild.
Obviously not tasks, which is its own thing.
Yeah. I mean, don't worry, we'll get to unbeatable DoDonPachi games in the near future, but this one, we at least have one. Oh, we will. But...
and it's funny that, like, you know, we're like starting to like talk about like loops and stuff, because like loops is something that it's not something that originated with Cave, but it is something that they kind of like took and made their own thing. Because like circling back to the beginning of the rant, we were talking briefly about Batsugun. Rena, Rail, anyone else, correct me if I'm wrong, but Batsugun was the first game that actually properly did difficulty incremental loops, wherein each loop got a little bit more difficult.
That sounds about right.
Batsugun started to introduce the unalive bullets. The third loop introduced the much bigger unalive bullets. The fourth loop introduced the "Okay, I hate you. Why are you still on a single credit?" unalive bullets. Like, it's something that Cave did not invent them. I'm pretty sure other games before Cave got a hold of it, or Toplan, whatever you want to call them. I don't think it's something that they came up with, but it is something that they popularized. Like, they're the ones that made it, quote, a thing.
They are the loop masters, unfortunately.
Yeah. And, like, again, like, Batsugun is the game that... well, not Batsugun, but Batsugun Special, specifically the Sega Saturn exclusive / festival exclusive range of that game, introduced a lot of concepts that we now think of as being mainstays of the bullet hell convention. And a lot of the people that worked on Batsugun and Batsugun Special were people that went on to be Day Zero people at Cave. So you almost can't talk about Cave games without talking about Toplan games and Batsugun Special and like IREM and a lot of the early like shmup developers, because they're all kind of it's like an Ouroboros almost. Like they're all like intricately linked together, and even though they're separate, they're the same. It's just this never-ending cycle, this time loop.
We'll get there.
All feeding off of each other, and everything in some weird, strange way, shape, or form comes back to either DoDonPachi or Mora, which is also a very good game, but not quite as good as DoDonPachi.
Well, don't worry. We are actually steadily approaching. We are steadily approaching. We're coming close.
Yeah, no, and I hate to keep, like, sidetracking us, but, like, DoDonPachi is, like, such a fundamentally important franchise to shmups in general that you cannot talk about shmups without talking about DoDonPachi, and you cannot talk about DoDonPachi without talking about shmups. It's like, you know, it sounds really stupid coming from me or Vale because we live in Pennsylvania, which is my own state. But like DoDonPachi is like a keystone franchise. Without DoDonPachi, like shmups as a genre just simply does not exist in its current form. I cannot. Like, it's like talking about adventure games without talking about Myst. It's like talking about RPGs without talking about Final Fantasy. Like, shmups without DoDonPachi, they just don't happen, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between. It's just not a thing. But I digress. I'm getting off. Rena, what were we talking about before I, like, hijacked your talk to, like, get on my soapbox?
We're talking about the aftermath of Dioju being
getting into white label now.
Yeah, we get to indulge in a little fun. Usually,
Just a little tomfoolery.
that's a little tomfoolery. Of course, with you know, with Blissful Death being a little too gamer for the gamers of the time. We did it.
Again, talked about it earlier. We're talking about it now. Joe's a game that came out way too early for its intended target audience. To quote Marty McFly, yes, y'all aren't ready for that one, but your kids are gonna love it.
We got a white label version of the game, which is a little easier.
Very, very good.
It's very, very good.
Released on the original Xbox. Actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Rena, Rail as well. Wasn't Diojo only released as a white label release on the original Xbox that had all of the various ranges built into it?
I believe so. Because, I mean, it is the definitive edition of the game. I can't pretend that it isn't.
Yeah, and also, like, I know Rail was here in chat earlier. Shoutouts Railcon. Like, amazing, like, player, like, very handy resource for the genre as a whole. Good people. Thumbs up, 10 out of 10 would hang again.
True. But I think we can finally move on from Dioju. Thankfully, because I might talk about the game forever if I let myself. But
so the war's over, right? Like, we've defeated the dude.
Yeah,
we've killed
kinda.
Kobashi for the last time. The Element Daughters are gone. Like, the last Metroid is in captivity.
Yes.
The galaxy is at peace.
I do believe at the end of DoDonPachi,
like, the windows are rolled up, the AC is on, we're listening to our favorite music, like, everything's good, right?
Yeah.
Right?
And Cave is doing okay. They did just release a really, really cool shmup. However,
Wait, hang on, unironically, actually, wait, what? Like, aside from, like, Exa labeled Side Iojo, like, is there a new game, or is that what you're referring to?
Oh no, we're referring to
label for Side Iojo, but like.
No, we're talking about just after Dioju. You know, K released like a great game, and they're doing well. However, it's things are not looking super great in general because this is around the time that arcades start to hit a bit of a decline. So while Dioju is doing great, it is now starting to do great in the context of it being an arcade game, which is not a great thing to hear, but it's still good. But arcades are starting to fall off a little bit. Of course, between all these events, Cave is still making absolute banger games that aren't DoDonPachi. I can't go over them all because we will get stuck forever. But they're, of course, still working their magic. But arcades, of course, really starting to die out in the West. we abandoned that very quickly. But even in Japan, arcades are becoming less of a mainstay, which is kind of bad for Cave, as their entire model is based entirely off of Japanese arcades. So,
dog, I heard you like UFO catchers, so I put UFO catchers in your round one, so you can UFO catcher while you UFO catcher.
It's a strange time for arcades, and because of that, Cave's actually started to struggle just a little bit with the financials, because, you know, as people who make arcade games, the well-being of arcades are kind of important for the company. Now, this means that we have to bring back the arcades, and what better way to do it than with another DoDonPachi game? I know we said we were done, but like,
no way.
What? Consider another DoDonPachi game, and because the last one was Blissful Death, this one is Resurrection. Whoa, it's back!
Let's go!
We're so back!
Jesus is here! Let's go, Christianity confirmed!
So, DoDonPachi Daifukatsu, or DoDonPachi Resurrection, is here! And it's ever so slightly catered to a more casual audience, though not really. This is a lie. But people will tell you this.
It's very, very difficult. Also, it's the only DoDonPachi game that I'm aware of that's on Steam. It's affordable. Goes on sale frequently. Wishlist it. It's very good. The arrangements are very good. The Black Label is one of the best games that's ever been released.
Thank you!
It hates you. It's offended that you're putting like a quote-unquote credit into it to play it. But please, I beg you.
It's so good. Please buy it.
Get on Steam. Buy DoDonPachi Resurrection. Buy the Black Label DLC. It is one of, if not the best games in the genre.
It's so good.
So good.
I love
The
Daifukatsu.
soundtrack alone is worth the price of admission.
You've been listening to it as we've been talking. It's very good.
I mean, I haven't been listening to it, but all I can hear is like Black Label Stage 3. You know, it's so like, if there has been anything that Cave has like you know, Babe Ruth call his shot, like absolutely knocked it out of the park without even trying, like, it's been the music. Like, Cave has great gameplay. They have great like aesthetic design sentiments. They have great scoring systems that age perfectly and extend the life of their games. Cave does everything well, but there's one thing that you can point to that Cave has never, ever, ever effed up. It's the music. And the Black Label soundtrack for Daifukatsu for Resurrection is so good because it's so different. Because like most of them are like, you know, typical like, you know, electronica light, you know, shmup soundtracks, and then Black Label is just this like chunky, grinding, and industrial Nine Inch Nails type, you know, rock soundtrack. And like, it just gets your blood pumping. It's so... Oh god, I'm gonna cry. It like perfectly encapsulates the entire vibe of what that series is going for. I don't know who did the Black Label soundtrack for Dai Fukkatsu, but it is so goddamn good. It's
so good.
Like, it's one of the best arranges that I've ever heard in any arcade game ever. It perfectly matches the vibe of what they're going for. It's so
If I remember correctly, I believe it's actually made by a handful of composers. It's a group project.
That doesn't surprise me.
It's really good.
I think be like so. Like, I'm literally gonna cry. Right
Yeah,
now.
a big shout out
One person
specifically
be, like,
to
so, like, called to create something that good. It's perfect. And like you know, maybe it's not objectively like the best thing ever. Like it's no, you know, Beethoven's Eighth or whatever. But like for what they were trying to do, nailed it. Like I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like it's so hard not to get off in the week.
Specifically, I'd like to shout out our homie Manabu Namiki, who is very prevalent within Cave and makes all the really good soundtracks, and also composed for Battle Gorega, I think. So it really all comes together, huh? What a real one!
Like all ships are made by one person.
It really is. But
we're gonna have to get Railkin in here. We're gonna have to like do some like Columbo deep dive and get to the bottom of this nonsense.
But DoDonPachi Daifu Katsu. Oh, here we go.
We just like deep dived into Dai Fukkatsu and didn't even like talk about it yet.
Yeah, here we go. Now we gotta talk. So
hold your breath because we're going real deep on this.
yeah, so the plot of Daifu Katsu starts with our new commander ahead of the DoDonPachi squadron, who strangely shares a bloodline with the original Longhina, also called Longhina. So
oh no, it can't be Longhina. No.
Yeah, they hired another one.
No, they're in cahoots, right? They've got the same name. They've got to be in cahoots.
Interestingly enough, we'll get there actually. Interesting.
All right, you know what? I'll take your word for it.
And the DoDonPachi squadron gets heads up that the warp gate that they used to send Longhina to the moon is, for some strange reason, getting fired up again. But like really fired up again. Because it turns out they are not sending whoever's using the oh, my robot again? Nope, cool. Whoever's using the warp gate is not sending material to another place. They're sending it to another time. They're sending it to the past.
No, there can't be time travel in the time travel franchise.
Oh, sorry. They are in fact sending it to the past.
No, 1.21 gigawatts.
Some unknown entity is sending material back into the past for unknown reasons. This entity is quickly identified as Element Daughter EXY, who has somehow survived. Somehow survived the encounter with Hibachi, and is now sending material back into the past. What could this be?
Accusing my wife of this.
I know. I'm so sorry.
Why would she do this to us?
But now, of course, as a DoDonPachi squadron, that's now your issue. So it's time to go back to 2008.
No, I'm not going back. No, it's 2024. I'm not going back to 2008. You can't make me. We're going back to 2000?
Yeah, we have to go to 2008. It's unfortunate. We take the warp drive back to 2008 so we can go see what's going on, what's being sent back, why it's being sent back, and if we can stop it. Now, of course, when we get back, it turns out EXY is not the only Element Daughter that survived.
No.
Yeah, it's true.
4 more, 1 for each level?
Yep.
No!
And they all turn into cool chips!
No, you can't do this to me.
Yeah, this one makes the exceedingly cool decision.
Fill us in. Who are the other 4?
Of course, Shooty has also come along for the ride. Unfortunate, I know. Shooty's back, and she's the worst boss in the game. I'm gonna keep it real. She's I do not appreciate her second loop patterns. They do not inspire confidence or joy.
Same for the Euro loops. About the Euro loops in a minute.
But we also have Lenyan, who is now going by Rayan.
No.
She changed her name and everything. She's Dark Lenyan.
No, she can't do this to me.
She still shoots lasers. Don't worry. It's very.
You know what? She's her own woman. She can do what she wants.
And we have 2 additional ones. We have Perfect, literal name. Her name's Perfect. I love her.
Okay.
She's my realest one. And she was an unfinished Element daughter that EXY just decided to finish and said, "You're on my team now." And she said, "I don't know. Sure, why not?" And so now she's on her team now.
That's how that goes.
And they even created their own Element daughter, all on their own. And she just goes by AI or I. She's great.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I remember her. She's just
great.
Time. Yeah, I kiss her.
Exactly.
Like that's the litmus test. Like, would you or would you not kiss the Element daughter?
But with this gang assembled, the Element daughters have come to take the pass. And not only have they come to take the pass, but they've come to take the pass to stop the impending future. Because the events of Blissful Death had that bad of a fallout on general humanity, the Element Daughters have all decided to come back to eliminate the threat before it has even started, Minority Report style. So they've gone back. They're going back to the past, etc., etc. So, of course, now that we're back in the past, it's time to go stop them. Because, I mean, you can't change the past, right?
Yeah, and now, spoiler alert, like, for storyline purposes, this is now a negative feedback loop where nothing good can come of it.
Yeah, it's over.
For gameplay purposes, this is guaranteed that we're going to get as many DoDonPachi games as games can financially justify. Also, I feel the need to ask.
Yes.
Dale, our host, are you following along with this? Like,
are you okay?
Are you? Yeah. Are you good? Are you straight?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm straight, but I think I'm following, and I'm very worried. Both
As you
by the
should
title
be.
Resurrection and what time travel could imply. Like, I at least have a hold on, like, what might be happening here, and I don't like it.
Okay, so I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
Yeah.
We're at Tatsu. We've time traveled at least, and I can't emphasize this enough, at least 3 times so far. Like, again, getting ahead of the plot a little bit. DoDonPachi is a negative feedback loop of an infinitely negative loop. Like, it just gets worse and worse every time you go down. Every time you, like, go down a layer on the turtles. Like, there's something due to be heartbroken about. Like, at first it was like, this is war. It's like, okay, this is war, but now there's people involved. Okay, it's war, but now there's waifus involved. Okay, it's war, but now there's really cute waifus involved. And, like, it just, like, eventually it's gonna get to the point that, like, the Element Daughters are, like, now, like, babies or something. I don't know. Like, so, like, DoDonPachi is just, like, this, like, weird, like, infinite feedback loop where every time you loop through it somehow finds a way to get worse. And, like, on one hand, it's kind of beautiful in a strange way. because they find a way to constantly like up the stakes in a way that feels meaningful. But on the other hand, like, this child is 7 months old. It does not need to be able to get an assault rifle, you know? Like, it's a wild freaking franchise. That's all I can say about it.
But yes, we have engaged in time travel. It is now over for the rest of the timeline, because of the feedback loop we are about to engage in. But we get to the oh yeah. This is going to get unfun.
It's just like an endless loop.
So
if you play Daifukatsu or Diojo, really any DoDonPachi after the second one, like, it just establishes that this is now like an endless cycle of violence that you can never escape from. So, and it's beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time.
So we get to the end of stage 5, right? You know, do the whole thing. You know, fight the things, all the yada yada yada. We fight the things, do the thing. The usual DoDonPachi thing, where you fight the fellas, and you go through the stages. We've been through this before. But we get to the end here. And of course, guess who's there if you do well enough? Oh my gosh, it's a long Hina again. The old one that's really annoying and keeps coming back. Because we're in the past, so he's still alive. So
I was gonna guess Hibachi, but fine.
And he's like, alright, let's play. While you're in the past, you wanna fight? Let's fight then.
Are we gonna fight Hibachi?
You do after another loop of the game.
Alright, cool, I get partial credit, let's go!
You gotta go through the game again, and then you fight Long Hina's force.
I'm not gonna get through the game again, but I'll take the partial credit.
Yeah. You know, you go through the game again, fighting Long Hina's forces this time instead of the Element Daughter forces.
You, my beloved. I'll circle back to that in a minute when we're done talking about like.
And then you go back, and because it's the past, interestingly enough, Long Hina has Taisabachi still. Since we're back far enough in the past.
Not that dog.
We're back far enough in the past that Long Hina still has Taisabachi.
No,
so you have to fight Taisabachi. But for some reason, he also has like a proto-hibachi in there. So the ending sequence involves fighting in order, Shuri, who has the worst fight in the game, and then Taisabachi, and then Hibachi, all in a row, in a gauntlet of hell.
I guess if you think about it, like, when you start to involve time travel, you can kind of do whatever you want, because at that point the timeline is all wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey.
It's rough. But,
And again, like, I realize we're getting off, like, into, like, where the timeline starts to get real goofy. Vale, you good?
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm about where I was when you last checked.
Fair enough.
Alright, so you're just, like, kind of, like, nodding and agreeing with everything that we're saying. I mean, that's honestly as good as I can hope for at this point.
There's at least one shoe I'm still waiting to drop.
I mean, that shoe is going to drop 17 different times, but that's neither here nor there at this point. This franchise, like, there's really no easy way to say this, gang. This franchise is wild.
It really is. I love it, though. I love it for that. It's so real for that.
Every time you think it has nothing left to show you, it shows you. I mean, it shows you exactly what you think it's going to show you, but it does it like 20 more times. I mean, it's literally Back to the Future with guns. Like, there's no polite way to describe it. Like, everyone is shooting everyone in this franchise.
It's lovely. I live for it. But we finish off Hibachi.
It's strangely beautiful. There's like no getting around it. Like, it's this intricate dance of like life and death and existence and emptiness. Like, it's a franchise that's like no other that's ever come about. Like, it's really weird that like the closest thing that's existed to a Shock franchise is Metal Gear Solid, but like if there was ever like an anti-war shmup, it would be DoDonPachi.
But
Like,
yeah,
it has so much in common with Metal Gear Solid without even trying, but also just I beg you, it's so good. Just it's like the most anti-war I could get, while they still require you to kill everything on sight.
oh yeah. But we finish off Hibachi, of course, because it's a DoDonPachi game. We always win in the end.
You
And
gotta.
after finishing off Hibachi, we get to go back to kind of the present. Not really. Like a little bit before we headed off. And
Yeah, no.
coming
yeah,
back,
time doesn't mean anything anymore.
EXY, of course, having failed her mission, returns to the present as well, and feels the need to redo everything. And so, coming back to our new officer, having witnessed the events and hearing, having seen all that happen, catches wind and makes perhaps the worst decision that any single person has ever made in the franchise, and makes and goes to EXY and says, perhaps the past can be changed, and lets her use the warp gate.
Now,
Thus kicking off.
For those that are not familiar with the franchise, this is canonically the bad ending of Daifukatsu. So the bad ending is the canonical ending that keeps the eternal war going eternally. Like, we have not solved anything, we've not learned anything, we have not grown as people. We're still fighting!
Yeah, our new Long Hina somehow ends up being worse than the old Long Hina, and kicks off the endless war to end all time.
Mark 3.
Mark 3.
Well, there it is.
But he's still got the drip though. Like I'm sorry. Like, we're sidetracking again. I'm sorry. If you don't think military uniforms have like a specific type of drip, you wrong. Like, that man knows how to dress himself.
He does look nice.
Like, if he told me what to do, I would probably listen just because he's got shoulder boards.
So real for that.
I am mentally prepared for the United States to become a military dictatorship thanks to Long Hina. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I will let y'all be the judge of. But I digress completely. That is completely beside the point. It sounds like Radiant is Side Diojo now.
Yeah, there are some more interesting points to the story of Daifukatsu, but I will be getting that into my long conclusion. So we will get there. But for now, we kind of gotta get a little sad, because we must now move on, because the year is approximately 2010, 2011, and
Mine should have spent that year for about 30 years at this point, as far as the franchise is concerned.
but in real life, it's 2010, 2011. And
Yeah.
arcades don't exist in the West, basically. They're kind of
Also,
gone.
dying and
Yeah, and they're dying in the East. And so, Cave is no longer a profitable company. They're starting to operate just straight up at a loss. They make still banger games, of course, but they are not doing great. And even as they put out more games, the financials just keep getting worse. And it starts to become very obvious that Cave is not going to be a company anymore in the coming years.
But wait, what if we sell out? What if we take our most popular franchise and we make it like an iPhone game? Can we make it an iPhone game? Will that keep us solvent?
You keep beating me to the punch!
I know, it's because I'm a huge Cave fan.
What they're fine. Their Gambit is in fact a mobile game, which we do unfortunately have to talk about because it actually is strange canonicity. It's got some weird stuff going on.
And honestly, like, for what it's not bad.
I actually really like it. I actually really like Maximum.
Yeah, no, like the mobile games they're not bad for what they are.
I actually really like Maximum.
Games are not bad for what they are.
Yeah. So
you go ahead. I'll circle back to my point when you're done.
Maximum, from a story perspective, is really interesting. Because we have to talk about Ketsui now, unfortunately.
You say that like Ketsui is not like also considered top 5 shmups of all time.
Yeah, I know.
Ketsui, like I am well aware that I did not get the F word privilege on Lady Arcaders, but Ketsui effing rips. Ketsui is so good.
I know it is.
If you only have to play one helicopter-based shmup and you have not already cashed it in on the X Strike series, cash it in on Ketsui.
Ketsui
is so good. Ketsui Tiny is so good. Ketsui doesn't miss. Rena knows what I'm talking about.
I know. I roast it all the time, but I know it's a good game.
Good. Sorry, I'm really not trying to steal your showcase.
You're fine.
Ketsui is so good.
But
Ketsui whips.
So, like, a brief plot overview of Ketsui, basically... Actually, Ketsui is like a whole thing. Ketsui is basically... World War III happened, and it exhausted all of humanity's resources, and global warming is, like, a big thing. And now all of humanity is, like, scraping by. So, a powerful, military, in a power grab attempt, puts a few of their soldiers through rigorous training so they could be like super soldiers, and they go through like training so they can take on the enemy forces. And the first loop of that game is the training, and then the second loop of that game is the real scenario. But the idea is that it is a complete self-unalive mission, and no one's actually expecting anything good to come out of it. So that's a whole thing.
But the storyline version of Ketsui is, what if DoDonPachi, but woo, I have to be close to you.
Yeah.
Because that game's mechanics rely very heavily on what we in the bullet hell community refer to as grazing. But what everyone else refers to as being uncomfortably close to someone that you're not entirely sure reciprocates your romantic feelings.
Personally, I like to call it going sicko mode. That whole game feels like a nightmare. So but we can't talk about Ketsui.
You want sicko mode at the red? Let's go.
We can't talk about Ketsui for too long. The point is, that's a game, that's the plot of that game, and the only reason it matters is because it ties in to DoDonPachi Maximum. So the company that makes...
Correct me if I'm wrong, Rena.
Yeah?
I don't mean to get too off topic, but this like kind of comes full circle back to everything else DoDonPachi. Ketsui was one of the first cave games, if not the first cave game, to feature like an obviously telegraphed hitbox, correct?
I believe it was, or at least one of them. Next to...
That sounds like something that if Rail kind of still hanging out, they could
probably.
Us.
Yeah, probably. It's... I know Daioju definitely did like something like that, but I know Ketsui is like way more blatant about it.
Yeah, I know, like with Ketsui, the hitbox was circular around the rotor portion. Because Ketsui was, for those that aren't aware, Ketsui was a series of helicopters for the player character sprite, and it was, the hitbox was centered around the rotor,
I believe,
of said helicopters. So you had like a 10 by 10 roughly circular hitbox there. It was one of the first instances of a bullet hell game where the hitbox was clearly telegraphed, because it also flashed when you were holding the rapid shot button.
Something like that.
The evolution of the bullet hell genre is a totally different topic that has totally different like mechanics and implications, and you know, Bob's your uncle and everything.
Yeah.
That is something that we probably need to bring Railkun in for.
Yeah.
Because they have just as much of an idea as the two of us do. But, God.
But, yeah, DoDonPachi Maximum.
Ketsui is a game. It's one of the games of all time. And you should also play Ketsui.
But, DoDonPachi Maximum. So, the company that makes the enemy ships in Ketsui, it's a company called EVAC, which, I mean, 0 points for being clever. I'm sorry. It's just cave backwards.
Rip.
But EVAC, the company, I assume this happens like before any other DoDonPachi game. I think it has to, but they are showing off their technology, presumably so Long Hina can pick it up in the future and go start wars with it. And they have this virtual showcase where you can like be a pilot and try and fight our enemy ships. Which, I mean, come on, let's get real. They just want it's a shoot 'em up. They got to get there somehow. But this showcase, reportedly, is just a tie-in for Ketsui and stuff. And I think another one of another military shooter that Cave has done. I completely forget, but it gets like an entire stage dedicated to it, and an entire ship. It's cool. It's a cool game, but interesting. There's also a side plot, funnily enough, where there's this hacker called, I think, 1 Minute Ray. I think, who is, while they're doing like the showcases, is hacking into the program and making it ludicrously easy so anyone can beat it so they look bad, which is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's basically just a justification for like the easy mode of the game, but it is so funny that they came up with something for that. And it kind of works. Yeah. It's kind of great.
Honestly, like, even discounting like easy mode or range mode or whatever you want to call it, I really like the idea of like considering Ketsui to be like a quote unquote like military trial exercise of like technology that like eventually ended up in Daifukatsu and just got like immediately shut down.
Immediately. No, we don't want the spider. Come on.
I cannot emphasize this enough. Like, this is like a franchise where you have like, you know, Solid Snake or Snake Plissken, or, you know, insert your super soldier of choice here, going against like literally everything else and just making an absolute mockery of it because they're just that good at being a warrior. I just find the idea of Ketsui being like, you know, a
reject
trial run that just like gets completely shot to crap, like extremely funny. But I digress.
Maximum is a rare gift of brevity and comedy within the story.
I mean,
hilarious.
You say that like Pink Sweets and Muchi Muchi Pork don't exist.
I mean, they're not part of the canon. Get out of here. They're not part of the canon. Shoot.
You mean Dangan Feveron, the disco dancing game, is not part of the DoDonPachi canon? Get out of here.
Unfortunately, I wish I would kill.
I just really wish that Casey and the Sunshine Band had Cool Over Warfare.
Okay, but that's maximum. But that's maximum. Yeah, that's maximum. It's like, it's actually a great fun game. You can download it. I got like my 100% clear on that like semi recently actually. It's fun. It sounds very funny, but it's one of my first hibachi clears.
You know, and like, on one hand, I feel bad for continually derailing your attempts to describe Saidai Ojo, but in fairness, Cave has kind of also self-sabotaged their attempts to like establish the setting of Saidai Ojo, because at this point there's like
don't worry,
7 or 8 different logical paths that you could take to get to the events of Saidai Ojo.
Well, don't worry, Saidai Ojo's a whole thing.
Because like you already established, the entire point of Daiojo is that Longhina is like, we've got the Element Daughters. We're going to use them to eradicate humanity because humanity is bad and we don't want humanity anymore. But like the entire point of Side-Eye Ojo is we've recovered the Element Daughters. We love the Element Daughters. They want humanity to succeed. So like it's weird.
Yeah, we'll get to the story of Side-Eye Ojo.
Ojo was like, we're using them, and Side-Eye Ojo, Resurrection, the quote-unquote fourth game, depending on how you're counting, is like, no, F you, you need to die. And then the fifth game is like, no, actually, ooh, like, we love you and we want you to succeed because the Element Daughters are like back on our side.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll get to the plot of Side-Eye Ojo. We'll get there. It's a doozy.
Yeah, as we already have alluded to, this is like a game franchise, whatever you want to call it, where time travel kind of makes everything meaningless for the sake of creating an entertaining narrative. And frankly, I think more things take that Back to the Future type of where you don't care about the fallout of things, and you're just trying to tell a story that's entertaining. Because, sometimes you just gotta get Michael J. Fox to play Go Johnny Go to a bunch of 1950s teenagers.
So, we're done with Maximum now.
Like, I do feel the need, real quick, Rena, before you, get too far.
Yes.
Vale.
How you doing?
Vale.
Don't even worry about it.
Oh.
Alright, so Vale is off in the weeds. Rena are also off in the weeds, but we're at least kind of
we're getting back. We're getting back. So
this franchise is wild.
So we transfer back into the real life financials of Cave, and it's still not good. It's
not great.
It's still not good. They're still releasing good games, but it's still not good. Because the main money maker is still arcades right now, and even, past DoDonPachi Maximum, it's not great.
Rena,
yeah.
I gotta pump the brakes for just a second here.
Yes.
Because we just got, just a little raid from RPG. What's going on, y'all? Welcome on in.
Attention!
We're not talking about Final Fantasy. We're talking about DoDonPachi.
Just in time for the story to get really sad.
Yeah, we're kind of getting to the point of DoDonPachi where everything kind of sucks. Which, I mean, if you know anything about DoDonPachi, it's basically every story beat, but also especially the story beat, which doesn't really narrow it down very much. But yeah, thank you all for coming and joining us. We appreciate it. We love you all. Thank you for checking out Lady Arcade.
Absolutely.
It's great that you're all here. We're talking about DoDonPachi.
DoDonPachi.
Yeah, just TLDR if you're not aware, DoDonPachi is a franchise that was originally created when the Cave Company came about, when they were after the collapse of Toplon, which was a company that made mostly shmups. So it's an old Japanese company that made mostly shmups, bullet hell shmups to be specific, and unfortunately kind of gone the way of the dodo, because that's kind of the way that business works, especially in the video game industry. But we're kind of, tracing their history as it relates to their most prolific franchise, which is Rena, if you will.
Yeah. Oh, we're getting to the fun part. So, arcades are dying. Uh-oh.
Not like this.
Thanks again to Rena. That was a particularly powerful Unhinged Rant. Those are always a good time, though. If you want to get your own submission, your own showcase in, the summer is currently open for submissions, but they're filling up fast. Type !AM in the chat to show us what you love. And if you want to help us make this magic happen in the background, we always look for more volunteers, so type !volunteer to get started on that. Now, we won't have a Sunday showcase for you, but Mina will be back for the next installment of On the FM. This time about Seisho and Maozan, featuring Masayoshi Iimori. More topics that I'm excitedly unfamiliar with. Preventathon 3 is happening right now, in fact, for the duration of the weekend. It's a speedrun charity marathon raising funds for the Little Warriors, run by Selkoof Mine and featuring many of our other members both behind the scenes and on its stage. We'll be raiding into them as they finish up tonight's run, so stick around for that. Have a good rest of your evening, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye!